Yes, no. Why no response one? Eh? You guys cannot hear me. Or is it really soft? Okay. You guys don't need to type. You any questions or whatever you can respond by voice. No need to actually type. I don't care about how other people do it. I do it this way. So several things first when we are starting. So basically, I would be treating you as if that you are actually my student in uni. Uh, I'm fine with you guys actually interrupting me with questions. But if I'm talking better type lah, you will have time to type it down also. Don't wait until like the end of the class or something to ask a question. If you have, like I say, I'm actually talking, I actually have a question to ask, put it into the chat. I will address it later on. If you don't, afterwards the question will be you will be gone away. I believe some of you were already experiencing something like that. So don't wait. Got question? Put it down. Okay. If I'm in between talking, waiting, etc., got question, ask anything that you do not understand, anything that you think you need help with, or even just simply curious, ask. If I can answer you, I will answer you. If it's not relevant, I will tell you. If I cannot answer you, I will let you know also. All right. Even if it's something that you find what I say is wrong, let me know. I'm totally fine with that. Of course, as we will discuss later on, whatever argument it is, bring data lah. Don't simply say, oh, I think that or I believe that, etc. So we would actually go through that process as well. What else? So you guys don't have assignment with me, etc. So that one don't need to talk about. This particular class itself is more towards understanding. Yeah. So it's the same for the class that I will have for my own student as well, where a lot of you have the questions of why should you even learn how to deal with psychological research or literature review, all those things. It's really normal, to be honest. Like for me it's different. I like research. I love statistics. Okay, so I can understand that. Oh, for me it's actually different, but I know that for most students, even for psychology students, it is a challenge. It's something that's quite dry. It doesn't actually tell you anything interesting. Particularly, one of the strength of psychological research is the rigidity, meaning that there's not much of a wiggling room. You have to do it in this way. This is a standard operating procedure, etc. You basically have no choice. Okay, that's why I can understand that it can be boring, lah. Okay, some of you do find that it's quite challenging because it is something that you would have never learned in previous schooling or education. Unless you are taking A-level psychology, let it be IB, let it be Cambridge, you would have gone through some journal. If not, to be honest, most of you will not actually touch any journal article evaluating whether it's real or not, etc. All those things, even before this. So it will be something new to you, hence why it could be challenging. Consolation is that this is actually one of the strengths that has been identified by employers for psychology students. Like why a lot of people like to hire psychology students, even if they are just degree and they are not doing anything to do with psychology. Because in a psychology degree, you learn to research. Basically, if your boss got a question for you, does this work? I read in the news that says that drinking 3 cups of coffee in the morning would makes you like a super intelligent or something. Does it actually work? Then you are able to find out whether it actually works or not, or whether it's actually fake news or not for the person. All right. You don't think that it's actually something simple. We will actually have an activity later on where I will give you some psychological phenomena, supposedly psychological phenomena, using your own research abilities, trying to determine whether they are facts or myth or not. For those that are particularly interesting, we will go through it together. I will show you basically for me, if I'm interested in these things, how do I find out whether it actually works or not, or whether it's actually something valid or not. That is one of the greatest strength or greater things that you can learn or take away from the psychology degree. Yeah. And that is the reason why you want to learn research methodology. Without this, you won't be able to determine whether something is true or not. particularly nowadays, there are so many fake news. Even for people who've been working like in research for quite a bit and teaching, etc., trying to determine whether something is real or not is quite challenging, to be honest. Last time I would have go to university, pick up a journal, read from it, like actual physical journal last time, not online even. I'll be able to know that all these things are actually quite valid because they has been peer reviewed. There are people who actually check all these things, the statistic, everything must be correct. Nowadays, even if it's published by a journal like Nature, which is supposedly like the superstar of journal article, you can't even be sure that they are correct. You need to go through all the details. You need to go through other similar articles to check whether what they are saying is actually correct or not. Yeah, there's now news coming out like even people publish paper, they still have the prompt that they put into ChatGPT, where they ask the ChatGPT to actually produce a literature review. That thing they copy and paste and put it in. And no one actually noticed that during the whole peer review thing, and it just published. Okay, so becoming more and more important for you to actually learn this. Now, site research itself is not all about statistic. If statistic is what you hate, fair. It's much like mathematics. Not many people like it. Again, fair. My advice to you, if you do take on the psychology now or in the future, don't fuss about it. You don't need to like it. That's the thing. You don't even need to do well in it. But you want to make sure that you have enough knowledge to actually know when someone is giving you something false, which is something that we will go through in the course if you continue on now, or when I do it with my own student. You need to be able to tell, oh, these people is actually saying things that are wrong. Yeah, I should not actually be believing in this evidence. This is actually false, all those things. You do not need to reach a point where you become a forensic statistician. That's not it. All right. But some simple stuff you should know, like, oh, this is actually all bull. It's not, yeah, again, it's not real. You should not be believing it, all these things. Okay. And the extent of falsehood in the whole psychology field, if you have not known already, it is really extensive. If you even think that you know already, I would say that we likelihood is that we underestimated it. I underestimated how bad it is. Until you actually do some research into a particular field, you would actually underestimate the whole thing. All right. Again, hence why you need to actually do this. Not that you like it. Same thing with research, as we'll discuss later. Why? For a lot of you will say that I'm not thinking about becoming a researcher. The reason why I take on psychology is that I want to be a counselor. I want to be a psychotherapist. I want to be a clinical psychologist. Okay. I'm not a child psychologist or whatever. I'm not looking into doing research. Research is only for uni lecturers or professors and things like that. We're fair. But the only reason why you need to learn this is not to do research. Yeah. Again, like I say, the key thing is for you to be able to determine what is real or not. And we will actually go through later on why that is important. First, actually, let's start with something quite simple. Yeah. Before we even go into talking about what is psychological research, let's talk about when you are asked about psychology or when you think about a psychologist, the people who practice psychology, okay, who comes into your mind? You can put it into a chat. The first guy will actually come into your mind, even a second, third, or whoever. All right. Don't worry, like I don't know enough about psychology, etc. Doesn't matter. You would know what is it, right? Even slightly or even wrong doesn't matter. But when we talk about psychology, who is the psychologist that come into your mind? So who? You can tell me by audio if you don't want to type. Chinese also can. Yeah. This one so bad. Are you driving or are you on the road? Make sure that you're safe first.
Okay.
Oh, then make sure that you're safe first. Okay, Freud. Even repeated is fine. I don't worry. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We are just doing something like casual here, so don't worry. Not even in actual class, I'm quite casual, so don't worry about it. Hui En, right? Looking at your name, suppose, or is it Hui En? Even if it's the same person, you can just mention the same person. It's totally fine. If it's a large cast, I basically would put it through like a software, sorry, the apps, not software, platform like Slido, where they will actually produce like a picture of what the answer was, and etc. So that would be quite interesting. But there are only three of you, so no need lah. Oh, I hope everything is fine with Jen. Mm. Typically, the course itself is defined for another large class. So, but don't worry. It's like we actually spend too little time on the thing. We just spend time on other stuff. Okay, so don't worry. Hmm? Okay, so Figment 4 is the only answer, is it? Yeah, thanks. Okay, so when you guys are answering this question, to be honest, supposedly I think it's most likely to be some media or pop psychologist. I don't know who is like really popular nowadays. Last time, last time during my time, it would be like Dr. Phil or something who is like a TV talk show host who is quite famous at my time, but of course turned out to be someone who is not really generic or actually like valid lah. Okay, the alternative would be that yeah, Sigmund Freud is almost always the first choice. To be honest, almost no, without any exception, Sigmund Freud is the one that most people actually mention. Okay. Then the second one, for those who have a bit more experience for teaching, learning in psychology, they will mention someone like B.F. Skinner. Okay, who is no doubt actually really influential in psychology, something that you will learn later on as well. Doesn't really matter what sort of psychology that you take, to be honest. Yeah, whatever class is it, whatever program is it, you will learn about Sigmund Freud, you will learn about B.F. Skinner. Hence why it is fair to say that these two would be actually mentioned. Yeah, but have any one of you heard of Daniel Kahneman? Just a simple yes or no. Hi, Jane. Come back. I hope everything is okay. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Okay, so anyone heard of Daniel Kahneman? I hope that the yes is yes, you are okay, right? You guys are really unresponsive. In my class, I would do a quiz thingy already. Just kidding. Okay. So Daniel Kahneman, why I mention him is that he is actually one of the first psychologists, one of out of five psychologists that actually ever received a Nobel Prize. There's only five of them. Some of them are not even like pure psychologists per se. Same as Kahneman. Kahneman is somewhat like a economist strike psychologist. So yeah, but still considered a psychologist. And he himself said that he is. So it's fair. Again, he's one of the first that actually one of the pair of psychologists who actually the first one that received a Nobel Prize. But if you ask a group of psychology students, including 300 level third year student, not one of them actually come out in their mind first. It's always Freud, it's always Skinner, some who are quite interested in like the information from China side would mention Alport, all right? But no one actually mentioned Daniel Kahneman. Yeah. That actually shows you how far we are from the reality of what psychology research is, in what is the understanding of psychology research in our mind. Particularly if for people when they are thinking about psychology, not you, I'm just saying like in general, if someone have in their mind psychology actually means Sigmund Freud, it's going to be a big issue. Okay, next thing we want to consider is that what is psychology to you? Like I say, when you have a representation of a person, a psychologist, that's supposedly the most famous one or representative of your field. Okay, let's say if psychology is actually Sigmund Freud, all things that comes into mind is all the what dream analysis. You have your free association. You have your Oedipus complex. You have your castration anxiety, defense mechanism, and blah and blah and blah and blah lah. Yeah, so all those things become psychology to you. Particularly the focus on unconscious, which, yeah, to be honest, is quite intriguing lah. It's something that sounds really interesting to people. You really want to find out more. I imagine a lot of people when they learn about psychology, they learn because of Freud. Yeah, because when we mentioned that, oh, your unconscious actually control your behavior, or at least have some influence over your behavior, like who you choose to be, what you want to do as an adult, who you date as your partner, and etc. All those things are controlled by your unconscious, which is the whole thing with Sigmund Freud lah. Okay. And Sigmund Freud is not considered as notorious in the field of psychology, where he is actually a bad influence. If you ask any psychologist, we don't like the idea that he is that famous, not out of jealousy, etc. As we'll discuss later on, it's more the fact that he is a bad influence on the knowledge of psychology. Yeah, he is notorious because he's really well known. Like even my grandma, before she passed away, know about Freud. Like everyone know about Freud. You show Freud's picture, like the really famous one, when he's actually holding a pipe. Everyone know who is it, right? So it's notorious. You show Daniel Kahneman, no one knows who is Daniel Kahneman. Okay. But for modern psychology, despite being really famously known, like he is the most famously known if you want to actually test it, even in the field that is inspired by him, psychoanalysis, which is still existing today, in APA, there is a division of psychoanalysis. So for those who actually study this also, to say that it's no longer relevant or do not exist is a far stretch. It still exists. It's still there. It is still being researched and practiced, particularly in large countries like China, America, German. Psychoanalysis is still a really famous or popular things that people are practicing, even for therapy. All right. But saying that, when you look at the membership, those who consider themselves as psychoanalysis consists of less than 10% of the APA member. When you consider a newer or more current association, which is the Association of Psychological Science, also in US, is even less. There's only 5%. Okay. Now, in introductory psychology textbook, there's about 700 pages, something that Gleitman would come up with lah. It will consist of about 15 pages that mention Freud, not all about him, but just simply mention of him. Okay, and most of them would be criticism. Freud is typically used as a bad example when it comes to research method. Like, what is the issue with Freud, etc.? What are things that we should not be repeating? All is about Freud. Not necessarily all about him per se lah, but he basically broke all the rules that we say are essential for modern psychology to be considered as a science, right? He basically break all of them. Hence why he is going to be mentioned, whether you like it or not, in any study of psychology that you have. Like not every paper lah, but if it's research method, you mention him. If you are going to study therapy, you are going to mention him. You're going to study introductory psychology, you are going to mention him. All right. The reason being that, yeah, you cannot escape him. Not simply because he's famous only. He did contribute significantly to the field of psychology. Like some people do not see that way. For me, he is the father of psychotherapy. Before him, there's no such thing as psychotherapy. Yes, people might practice like talk therapy before him, but no one make it so famous and widespread as he did. So seriously, any counselor or therapist nowadays, including clinical psychologists, would need to thank him for that. Before this, no one actually pay attention to psychological disorder. They will see it as what being possessed by demons and all these things. They will not see it as an issue like a physical disorder that need to be treated. He is the first guy who actually point out that, oh, it's a disease, so it's a disorder, means that you need to treat it. And this is the way that you're going to do it. The way that he do it is somewhat controversial, and the way that he actually tests it is definitely problematic, but we cannot say that he do not contribute. That's the thing. We do thank him for his contribution in that particular field. Like I personally feel that it's really important for him to actually done that. But for him to become like the poster boy of psychology today is going to be a problem. Again, as we mentioned, there's a lot of issue with however he's actually doing it. When you are considering his work under the lens of modern psychology, basically knowing what we know today. Without today's, of course, without the knowledge that we have today, of course, you won't able to see any problem with Freud stuff. That is what we mentioned, why it's important for you to know about psychological research. Again, without that, you won't be able to tell whether Freud thinks it's good or not. Okay, what if someone actually come and offer you that says that we have a 3-day program or 5-day program? You pay us like what 5,000 ringgit or whatever dollar and stuff. We'll complete you with training with psychoanalysis method, including like dream analysis, this and this, that and that. Okay, and then we'll give you a cert. You'll be able to practice psychoanalysis after that. How do you determine that whether it's true or not? I imagine if you are really interested in psychology, you have seen more than one of this kind of ads, right? I personally know of one things that my counseling student in China, not counseling student, my previous student who is working as a counselor in China actually show me about. I think it's like a psychoanalysis class that is talking about dream analysis. That is 5 days, it will cost 8,000 RMB. Yeah, and then they say that, oh, they will be giving them like a certification or something, and then they will be able to practice. If you are only being fascinated by the whole thing about Freud, you did not actually go and find out more about it. The most minor thing is that you get fraud, no? You get con, you actually lost 8,000 RMB and 5 days of your time without anything. Basically learn nothing, to be honest, if you're only learning dream analysis. But the worst thing is that if you actually try to treat people, again, if you, a person who actually interested in psychology, don't know that those things are not really valid, basically lies lah. Okay, and you go and pay money to learn them, and then now you go and tell other people that, oh, you have this issue, or let me help you, they would even be more gullible, especially if you are your friends, because they are never interested in psychology. They never actually know about these things. They don't know whether it's true or not. Okay, hence why it's really essential for you to be able to tell, okay, if such a thing actually matters or such a thing actually worth your money or not, right? So saying that, let's actually go through a bit more about the problem of Freud, because once we actually discuss issue with him, then we can go into the area about how you can actually use that knowledge to benefit yourself. Okay. So don't make the same mistake as he does, basically. So some problem with Freud. The importance to modern psychology, as we mentioned, is vastly exaggerated. Like, yeah, I already basically share with you what I think about his contribution, which is undeniable. But saying that, wow, he's really important, etc., not really for modern psychology. He has done his part, but other than that, almost nothing in his theory should be applicable today. Yeah. Okay. One is that his method of investigation is really problematic. It's completely unrepresentative nowadays. Yeah. Of course, his theory, his research in general last time was all case studies. It will be like his recollection or record of how he treated each of his patients. Okay. And if you have a chance of reading some of them, it's both interesting and quite weird and unorganized. There's one case that's actually mentioned in A-level psychology, Cambridge one, which is the Little Hans case about anxiety disorder. The whole thing is really, really hard to read. It is about 100+ pages talking about a 5-year-old kid having anxiety disorder. Okay, so that was his method. Okay, not that case study is anything wrong, but even to today's standard, to actually run a case study, you need to follow certain rules. Something that, yeah, if we are in the course, we will discuss it further on. Okay, but in order to test whether something works well or not as an intervention, the minimum that you have is that you need to have a control experimentation, where it would be somewhat like a lab experiment or field experiment where you test the method in real life, but you need to control for something. Yeah, the control here is to make sure that you minimize whatever potential things in the environment that could cause a bias in the result. Okay. The problem with case study is always about generalization. If you think about treatment, the purpose is always supposed to be that I'm trying to test something and then I want to make sure that it actually works on a lot of people. If not everyone, should be a lot lah. Right? If not, what's the point? I will be only treating one person and then the case is that's it. It won't actually be finished. Sorry, give me a minute.
几个人上不到
哦，
，cannot download。
它那个如果是浏览器的话，它没有下载 Team，你知道吗？它是想要上网用。上网用的话，它就要找能够用的 browser。它的 browser 现在我不知道它用的是什么，你用 Chrome 是吧
他是讲他的
？Chrome 它不能用。
MS Team 点了下载不到，他想点下载，他下载不到。他要按这个下载 MS Team，他下载不到。嘿，来，有谁会支援的？
还要支援呢？Sorry, give me 5 minutes.
「你再开多一个新的 link 也是这样。
你刚先给他。
给肯定用，现在给我这个肯定。
Okay, let's continue. Again, like going back to the intervention or treatment, etc. Of course, you want to make sure that you actually works on a lot of people rather than just on one person. And in order to make sure that that is the case, you need to make sure that you control for things like individual differences. Yeah. Okay. Like for example, age. If a particular intervention work on 5-year-old, does it mean that it works on say 15 years old? What about 25 years old? Okay. If you do not never control for age of the participant, so let's say that I include more participants of different age in the experiment, and then I see whether there's a differences or not. You are not able to say that your method would be working for everyone now, or at least like I say, most people, right? This is not considering other stuff that is even more influential. For example, there are two things that's really important for modern psychotherapy nowadays. One is both is actually good lah, somewhat good lah. Okay. One is actually what we call social economic status, meaning how rich you are or your family are. The richer your family are, the better you will fare, regardless of whatever disorder that you have. Because you have much more resources, you can actually get help. You can afford to skip work. Yeah, you don't need to do anything. Just focus on your disorder or recovery. Everything seems to be really important. In the opposite or in vice versa way, not necessarily opposite per se. Poverty brings a lot of issue to mental disorder. People are more likely to have mental disorder. 如果不能 share 东西的话，我也帮不到你哦。
这个 WhatsApp 不能 share 过去的，
你 download 下来了先啦。
我开不到。你要用 MS 行就是。
我们講到 Facebook 咩？
我抄不到了。你继续讲。有人进来了，是吗？多了一个。OK，欢迎。OK，continue。
你拿 email 啦，我 send 给他们了。
OK。
Where was I? Okay, socioeconomic status. Yeah. One of the things that really important to control for is socioeconomic status. Like we mentioned just now, for people who have rich family, then of course it's easier for them to recover. They can focus on their recovery, etc. Meaning that you don't want to create something that only works for people who are rich. What's the point? Because as mentioned just now, people who are poorer or living in poverty are more likely to have psychological disorder. So they are the one who actually need help the more, not really the one who are rich. In that case, you want to make sure that at least whatever intervention that you're designing is going to work on those who are poor as well. Okay, if not like, oh, it's only going to work better if they are poor, not going to be like that lah, according to evidence. But at least poverty or SCS should not be the determining factor of whether someone will be cured or not. Like considering drugs. Okay, theoretically, poverty or not should not matter, right? You're rich, you're poor, you take the drug, the effect is the same. If it's a drug that will increase your serotonin, it will increase your serotonin. Yeah, rich or not doesn't matter. But of course, reality is not that. In reality, drugs cost money unless the government pay for it lah. Okay. If not, then if you're poor, you're unlikely to actually get the drug. So even if the drug works, you are not able to get the benefit of the treatment. Okay. Hence why having a controlled experimentation is important. Another thing that's found to be really important nowadays for psychological disorder is social network. Okay. How many friends, families, etc., and how close the relationship are to you. The stronger your social network is, the better is it for you. We are not talking about social media and stuff, like how many friends you have on Xiaohongshu lah, or Facebook lah, or Instagram lah, or whatever things that you guys use today lah. Okay, we are not even talking about that. We are talking about actual friends who you interact every day. If you have problem, you go to them. If you have any issue, you will go and ask them for help and you would be helped. Those are really important for people who are experiencing psychological disorder. It's both protective in the sense that people are less likely to have an onset of a psychological disorder, meaning they actually have a disorder in the first place, as well as the recovery. So those are the things that you need to control for, because you don't want that, or intervention only works if they have good friends. Okay, in that sense, it doesn't mean that the intervention or the treatment has no value. It does, but it is quite restrictive law. Okay, but when it comes to treatment, of course, like I say, you want to actually make sure that it will apply to more people. Why you want to restrict to a small amount of people? That doesn't make sense, yeah. Okay, the other one is that while his theory seems like it's really elaborative, there are a lot of details, etc., there is no collection between that and the actual behavioral data, meaning that his theory cannot be used as a predicting, cannot be used for prediction. You cannot say that, oh, according to his theory, this is what people would do. Then if I put the person into that situation, I can predict that they will do something like that. They do not. In general, most studies that focus on Freud's theory, particularly his psychosexual development theory, that says that, oh, at 2 years old, up to 2 years old, you'll be oral stage. You'll be focusing on oral stimulation, everything. If you do not get stimulated, you will get fixation, blah, blah, blah. Not going into detail on that. It's not really well supported. Okay, so it doesn't serve as a prediction. Means that however interesting the theory is, it would just be like a novel or story. It doesn't make it cannot be applied. Okay, and making it more problem is that his complicated theory of bringing in a lot of different weird things from various what methodology. If you actually look at cross-cultural psychology, you will learn even more. Different people from different culture tend to interpret the whole thing differently. It actually gives a really misleading picture of psychology, especially the idea that your upbringing, like your parents, etc., determine your future. Not to say that they are not important. I found that this is something that's really popular, particularly in China nowadays as well, in terms of the therapy side as well. they call it what 原生家庭. So the whole idea that your original family actually have a great influence on you, like who you become, what you choose to be, etc. And without actually resolving that, you are not able to become a better person and stuff like that. That seems to be really popular. It's definitely something that is popularized by Freud's idea, yeah, where your parents will actually cause some unconscious impulses in you or fixation and this and that. If you ask any behavioralist, which I identify myself is total bull. There is no such thing. Yes, your parents, particularly your parents, your original family would definitely have an influence on who you are today. There is no question about that. But saying that you need to resolve that, like meaning you need to get your parents to what say that they are sorry or things like that in order for you to become a good better person. No such thing. Yeah, they have an influence. You have your choice now of what you want to change. Okay, they do contribute to the likelihood of having psychological disorder in the extreme cases. Let's say that if the parents do have substance abuse, like drinking alcohol, taking drugs and stuff, of course the child is more likely to have psychological disorder because it's linked to multiple things like poverty that we mentioned just now, lack of nutrient, lack of emotional support, yeah, and in general just neglected. They are not actually well taken care by the parents. That's the reason why they will have all those things issue later in life. But doesn't mean that I need to get the parents involved and I need to treat them. There is no such thing. You ask any behaviorist, it's going to be a waste of time. You want to talk about it or not in the therapy, you want to. It is a good catharsis for the client or the patient. Let them vent it out, talk about their family, how is it problematic and stuff. But to be honest, looking at the data, in terms of treatment, is not really that important. Yeah. And the more familiar study have found that the more familiar you are with Freud's work, that is going to actually makes it harder for you to understand modern psychology. Because his idea, the way that he's testing it, the evidence that he's used is basically contradictory to whatever modern psychology is doing or using. Yeah, hence why it's only going to become more of an issue. Right. Saying that doesn't mean that I tell you, oh, don't go and read on Freud's thing, etc. Just that don't pay too much attention into it. Definitely don't buy the book whatever book that he used. I think there's one that was quite popular few years ago on dream analysis one. Don't spend money on those things. Yeah, it's not going to help you. If you actually go into the rabbit hole, it will only make things worse. Okay, so don't. It'll be interesting to read on the whole thing. Now, if you do decided to teach one day, you definitely need to learn about Freud because you are going to teach about him. Like I said, for me, I don't like his stuff in terms of application, but I can understand why he do it. Like at the time when he was with the knowledge that he has, he already did really well. I don't think that is actually a big problem, to be honest. Okay, but if you're saying that, oh, we are going to apply his theory today, that is the totally opposite thing. Like anyone who's still using dream analysis, etc., I do not agree. I will not say that they are cons person and stuff but I would not agree on those things. There is no data to support it at all. All right. So that's that with Freud. So we would actually, you can see that what we are going with here is that Freud problem is whatever that he's testing is that there's no experimentation, there's no connection between theory and behavioral data, meaning that there is no data. There is no empirical data that you gain through studies and stuff, scientific studies that actually provide you the support that say that, oh, you can do this. This is actually good. This is actually valid, right? There is no such thing. Yeah? We are not even into a state where you want to evaluate the data itself. We are not even there yet. Okay, so even before that, we are already reaching a point that he just don't have anything. Okay, so no reason to actually continue on. Okay. Okay, now typically for me, my class will run for about 50 minutes and have a 10 minutes break. So if you guys do need to take a break, you go. But since we actually started late, I will just continue for this round. Okay, but please, if you do go, need to go, go. If any questions later on, just ask. All right. If I'm too fast or you think that I'm going off topic, also just let me know. Like I say, I'm pretty busy with things. I don't I would treat you as my actual student, so I treat my actual student like that. So it is basically quite easygoing. Any issues and etc. you have to go tell me. Same thing if you have any questions that like you are interested in when you want to come into this class in the morning of a Saturday, you put in the chat. Right, I will address it later on. Right, I will just continue. So there are some other questions that students really like to ask as well. Like these are the things that's important to you before you actually decided, whether you want to go into it, like whether I want to learn more about psychological research and stuff. Okay, one of the things is that is psychology even that special? Like a lot of people say, oh, isn't it the same as philosophy? Okay, or isn't it the same like sociology? You're just looking at how people behave in the society and things like that only, okay, like or counseling, is it psychology? I think my wife just showed me a video on Xiaohongshu that says, "Oh, China don't need psychology," and then the whole thing is about China don't need psychotherapy because China already have Taoism and Buddhism. Yeah, I think that was the whole thing. So you can see the argument for that doesn't even stand, because his question was, oh sorry, his hypothesis was that China don't need psychology, but then his whole thing is about psychotherapy or counseling. I think that's what he's going on with. So you can see that is already wrong. So in order to actually have a better understanding of psychology, first thing, one of the things that you ask, or not first things, right? One of the things that you ask is that whether psychology is even special or not. Okay, of course, as a psychologist, we will say that it is lah, right? But as we mentioned, if you are saying that, give me the reason, give me the evidence, everything. So there's no evidence to say that the psychology is special per se, but there are two justification for saying that psychology itself is an independent field. Yeah, particularly it's independent for even other what we call social sciences, including like sociology, including like anthropology, philosophy, and things like that lah. One, psychology to study a full range of human as well as non-human behavior, yeah, using a technique of science. The other one, if we are going to apply that knowledge, which that's the main reason why we study in the first place, is always about application. It's derived from the knowledge that is scientifically based. So if you actually look at them, the key word there is science. Okay. What actually separates us even from other social sciences is the science part. In comparison to other social science like anthropology, like sociology, psychology is the one have the most rigid and strictest sense of scientific research method, yeah, as I mentioned earlier on. Because without that, we would not have as popular today, yeah. The main thing that actually differentiates psychology from other things is the science part. We can say that, okay, these are the things that we think is going to happen because this is the evidence. We have tested it. We scientifically found the reason or the findings or whatever result that actually support our hypothesis or prediction. Other sciences cannot say that. Like anthropology will actually study history of human civilization and things like that. They can only conjecture. They'll say that, oh, likelihood, this is what have happened, and these are the things that could happen. No one can say that we are going to say that this is going to happen. Psychology, because we are following a strict scientific method of research, it allows us to predict. It allows us to do something in science called manipulation or control, depending on which one you look at. Basically, I can make something into whatever situation that I want them to be in. For example, let's say like I'm a father of a child now. Okay, if I want my child to be happy in the future, let's say, or I want my child to be a genius, okay, I can actually look at the evidence that tells me what I can do. At least I will increase the likelihood that he would be in a state where let it be happier or let it be smarter and things like that, whatever that I want thinking of lah. Okay. So scientific psychology allow me to do that. Other form of social sciences not necessary. Yeah. Okay. This is the biggest reason why you want to study psychology, because it allows you to do science. And science is rigid. Because of whatever that you want to achieve with it is quite challenging, let's say. Yeah, you are going to predict how people will react in a certain situation and stuff. That's the reason why you have to be rigid. Now, One issue with psychology, of course, is called soft science because the likelihood of exception is there. There's never a case where, oh, the theory says this, everyone will follow this. There's no such thing. Like one of my master student in Australia is talking about when we just started. He found that psychology sometimes can be frustrating. Why? There are multiple answer or multiple layer answer to the simple question. It's always that something would be like this if the condition is this and this and this. Okay, but that is the real life, because in real life that is what happened. You would never have two person that are exactly the same. Okay, even if you put the two person, let's say, in the same room, everything else is the same room, same temperature, same like lightning level, everything is the same. Their experience is not the same. That's the reason why to say that in psychology you want a 100% prediction. There is no such thing. Even come down to the thing where I slap a person, they would feel pain. They are also exception because there are people who don't feel pain. All right, because humans are complex, yeah. So it's not like what hard science says. Oh, it's like chemistry. I want that two hydrogen and one oxygen become water. It's always like that. Yes, because those things are simple. Like how many molecules that we have. Don't even count down to that. Just simply neurotransmitter, type of cells that we have, type of neurons that we have, type of bones, type of muscle that we have. We are really complex being. So do not fall into a trap of saying science is better and this and that. You are dealing with something that's much more complex. Hence why the condition will be complex when it comes to it. This is especially the case for you guys who are thinking about becoming therapists and counselor. There's never going to be a same case. Every case is different, no matter on the background how similar they are. Like one of my students who are doing counseling in China, for whatever reason it is, her specialty becomes anxiety disorder. Deal with too many cases already. For her, there was particularly near the Gaokao when the standardized examination comes. He will have a lot of cases of client that is from basically the secondary school While they come from the same place, their school even is the same. Some of them even from the same class. Okay, the experience and the condition will totally be different. Even if their disorder is the same. There's one cases where she have 3 girls that are having hair pulling syndrome. All of them pull their hair because of anxiety. Okay, but the reason is different. The way to treat them is different. So this is something that you want to bear in mind as well when you are studying psychology. There is no such thing as a unifying answer. Okay, and instead of saying that makes psychology weak, it actually makes psychology stronger. Because I'm able to be flexible, even in a situation where there was no prior answer, I will be able to figure something out. Okay, imagine if a chemist actually found that H2O is not water. They won't be able to do anything about it at that spot, because whatever chemical reaction it is, it will already happen. All right. So human are complex, deal with it. But saying that, is psychology a science or not? It is by no doubt, yes, it is science. Okay. I would have discussed this a bit more in what we call the senior seminar in psychology class or stuff when my student actually need to do research. But it is a science. And that's why you guys are struggling with the whole thing. Because science are never easy. Correct? I imagine all of you would have been through some sort of scientific studies already, right? Biology, chemistry, physics, and stuff. They are never easy. That's the reason why psychology is also hard. All right. In comparison to English, history, and stuff, psychology is hard because it's science. But saying that, why we want to even ask that question is that a lot of people are doubting that. People do not believe that psychology is a science, etc., because of several reasons. One, there's a increasing popularity of bogus psychology. Bogus psychology, pseudoscience, whatever it is, means that it is something that's being marketed as psychology, but they are false. Hence the bogus thing. What we found is that unfortunately, it's much like fake news. The fake things actually get more popularity. People actually want to listen to the fake things, the lies, etc., rather than actually engage in science. So think about it, like for people, especially for those who are not really interested in psychology, even for you guys who are actually interested in psychology, how many times when you are thinking about reading on some psychological related stuff, did you actually go and search for a journal article online? How many times you actually read it from a magazine like Psychology Today? How many times you actually just watch it on like a short video on TikTok lah or Xiaohongshu or something like that? Okay, so yeah, modern psychology for some reason get really popular lah because they are easier to understand. They, as we discussed later on, is something that fit common sense. Hence why people actually like it more. Yeah, and there seems to be a resistance to the development of new science for some reason, particularly for those who are practicing the old sciences. Like you talk to any biologist lah, chemist lah and stuff, they don't like the idea of psychology being a science. Yeah, it seems like, oh, they are not really a science because they don't fit this lah and that. Yeah, even statistician, people who actually study statistics don't like the idea of psychology. I know because I was doing double major in my university when I was studying for undergraduate. My one of my lecturer in the statistics departments basically want me to go and do a PhD instead rather than psych. He's saying that psychology is bogus science lah. This so that's basically the whole resistance. They don't like the idea. They want to resist it. But despite that, we do emerge as a science in the field overall. Okay. And especially people don't like those things that we have found to be against common sense. We will discuss a bit more on what exactly is common sense later on. Okay. Okay, so saying that is psychology is a science, let's say lah. Any one of you who think otherwise, let me know. Not to challenge you for a fight or something. Okay. It would be interesting to actually see what you have in mind. Yeah, when you feel like psychology is not a science, what actually caused you to think that so that we can actually discuss it. Right? So when we say that psychology is science, what is a science? Science is basically a systematic study. Few things here. Okay. Looking at the structure and behavior of the world, basically. Let it be physical world, natural world, imagined world, doesn't matter. Okay. There is no proper definition for this. Different people with different idea. But science is basically the way that you look for the truth of the world. Like what exactly is going on in the reality. Yeah, what is actually happening to the world. So for chemistry, it will be like how the different molecules actually combine to become different substance, etc. Biology would be like how a digestive system works. Okay, so for psychology is how people actually works. Okay, so that's the idea. So you try to gain those information. When we say systematic study, it means that the research method itself is quite rigid lah. You have to follow a particular standard. So it can be through observation, experimentation, and testing theories. Okay. While we are going to say more about all these things like experimentation, etc. later on, the most important thing in psychology is observation. Now, for those of you who are thinking about going into in the future, never stop paying attention to your environment. Because the whatever interesting things or classic studies there was in the psychology field, it was originated from observation. It's like people actually looking at their world and found that, hey, this thing is actually quite interesting, but why no one is talking about it? I actually want to know more about it. Then you actually go into research, thinking about how to test it, everything, which is the next step already. The first step is actually through observation. Doesn't even need to be a research idea. The key thing is that you always bear in mind of whatever that is really interesting in the world where you observe and you can't figure out why. And you really want to find out why. When you have those ideas, always mark them down. Nowadays, there are a lot of ways to do it. Last time, I always have a little book with me. Whenever I have something, I will put it down onto the book because I found that if you don't actually do that on the spot, after a few seconds, it will be gone. Especially if you are distracted by something else. Someone call your name, the whole idea is gone. You remember that you have a really good idea, but it's gone. Okay? So make it a habit of always mark them down. Nowadays, you have your email lah, your WhatsApp lah, your audio recording lah, whatever it is, put them down. Easiest way is to record it lah. It would sound like gibberish sometimes afterwards, but record it. Whatever thoughts that you have, worst thing is that you waste your time recording law. It's not a good idea law. Okay, but alternative is that you actually lose a really good research idea. So never do that. Right. So always observe, pay attention. The other thing, of course, is to read. Doesn't matter what it is. Maybe your field later on is going to be, let's say, therapy. Okay, but you don't simply read on therapy only. You read on everything, even if it's not psychologically related. All right, they will always be inspiring to you. Like it would actually help you to create ideas and stuff to you. So keep on doing that, basically. So science is actually a way of thinking, yeah. Like trying to understand the world. We will actually talk about like how are the 4 things that will define whether you are a scientist or not. Scientist is not because you have a qualification. It's not because you are doing research. It's not because you are teaching in the university. Being a scientist means that it is a way of life. As we say, science is a way of thinking. So if you are a scientist, is a person who actually adopt a scientific way of thinking. We will go through what seems to be practiced later on. Whatever science it is not defined by the subject matter. Yeah, hard science, soft science, chemistry, physics, psychology, sociology, anthropology, whatever G it is, doesn't matter. As long as they do fit 3 important features of what is considered science. One is the use of systematic empiricism. This actually means observation. Whatever that you are thinking of, you want to test them using observation. All right. But the whole way to actually measure data, etc., we will discuss later on. This is actually the second hurdle of whatever project that you guys are going to do. For those of you who are going to maybe master or something where you need to consider a research idea, yeah, this is the second step. The first one is actually the idea. Okay. This is something else I want to tell you why you want to keep on doing all the recording. If you are thinking about advancing in psychology, you will have to do research one day. Even if you are doing counseling and stuff, I tell you now, if not, yeah, you're not going to be someone that's actually good. Unfortunately, you don't need to make it a main thing, but you will need to touch on it. So we'll discuss it later on. That's why if you are in a program where it requires you to do a research, you will find that coming out with research ideas suddenly is not easy. I have students who are doing PhD stuck on the idea for a whole year, just on the idea, because it just keep on get banned. Yeah, PhD is harder. Yeah. Master one, I've seen one that stuck for 3 months, cannot find an idea. All right. So that's the reason why I asked you if you're interested in anything, record them down. Later on, when you do need to come up with the idea, go back to your notebook, go back to your audio recording, whatever it is. From there, try to find something interesting. Makes your life much easier, and it's something that you are interested in the first place. If not, yeah, seriously, you don't pay attention normally in life, suddenly say that I want to observe something interesting is not going to be that easy. And you try to go online and search for what's the hot popular topic to research now, it's not going to do well for you, I tell you. Yeah, those things either is not really a good idea or it's going to be really boring. All right. So do make it a habit of doing that. Yeah, if you can, not like a restriction or something, it will be good for you. So that's systematic empiricism. Basically talking about the use of research method, yeah, which is why you guys are here today. Okay, so what is the systematic thing here that you want to learn about? We will not go into detail on that. That would be like later on. Second one, interestingly enough, is the production of public knowledge where you are supposed to publish or share your information, whatever that you find with the world. Not simply with your lecturers or your supervisors or your department, not simply with your colleagues or people in the same field, but with everyone. Hence why the idea of public. We will discuss why is it a problem later on, but you should, because the purpose of science is supposed to be helping human beings, especially in psychology. You're trying to say when you're talking about all those application, implication, etc., is how is your finding going to help human being as a species in general. Hence why it's really essential for you to be able to do that by studying this and then tell people, oh, you should not be doing that to your children. It's going to be harmful. For example, one of the things that has been shown to be really harmful for kids is if they are crying, don't go and comfort them. Not sure anyone who's still practicing that lah. I've seen it, okay? But not supposed to be the case. Last time, for whatever reason it is, people actually believe that, oh, not supposed to let children be comforted when they're crying. Let them cry. Let them cry until they are tired, then they will stop. They need to learn that they need to take care of themselves, this and that. Evidence has shown that if you do that, it's actually going to damage them neurologically. Their brain would be damaged by that if you don't respond to their emotional outcry. So nowadays, don't do that. For those kind of research, these are the things that should be spread out. You tell parents that this is what you need to do. Hug them as much as you can. Cry, no cry, laugh, whatever it is, hug them. It's really, really important. Okay? So seriously, don't let your child cry until they cannot stop. This is the reason why it's important to spread your or share your knowledge. And the last one, which is going to be activity, is the examination of a solvable problem. So when it comes to solvable problem means that there must be something in life where it's actually creating an issue. That's the reason why you want to run the research. Okay. For example, let's say the example I given just now. My child is crying. I don't know whether I should hug him or let him cry out. That is the question. All right. So you can actually run research to find out what should be the answer. It should be a solvable problem in that case. But saying that, what determines or define what is solvable or not? So according to Karl Popper, there's supposed to be two things there, but he only mentioned one term. So for scientific statement or whatever that you are testing in the experiment, it must be falsifiable. So two things that actually determines whether something is solvable or not. Testability, whether you can actually test it in an experiment or not. Number two, falsifiability, whether you can say that it's wrong, supported, not supported, one way or the other. Yeah. What it means is that it cannot be one-sided. You can say if something is wrong or right. There is somewhat a black and white answer to this. You can be conditional. Like I mentioned just now, it can be that, oh, you should be hugging your child if, let's say, they are actually if they actually have not been fed for so long, they have cried for more than 3 hours, something like that. It can be conditional. All right. But it's not acceptable for something to have no answer or always one-sided one. Doesn't matter what you do. What does it mean by that? I'll show you a video of what it is. Yeah, that means that what is like solvable problem. Oh, more people are getting it. Good. Hey, what happened? Oh, sorry, I tested. If you guys supposed to be able to hear things and stuff. If I forgot to share the sound, you let me know.
You might think that scientists begin with hypotheses such as all swans are white and then go about looking for evidence to support them. Karl Popper disagreed. He suggested that scientists do indeed begin with hypotheses, bold hypotheses that can be falsified by evidence.
So those of you who never taking psychology stuff before or research method before, hypothesis is basically what we call educated prediction. You're predicting that these are the things that will happen. As mentioned just now, like all swans are white. So there is actually a prediction, saying that there's not going to be swan that's not white. So say anything else is the same. For example, I would say that children, if you hug them when they're crying, it's going to be bad for them. Let's say that just simply generally okay? Or if you don't hug them, it's going to be bad like that. Those are hypotheses. It's a prediction. So according to Karl Popper, supposed to be falsifiable, meaning that if I say that all swan are all swan are black, I am able to say that that's wrong. There are some black ones. Okay? So if I say the hypothesis is that if a child is crying and you hug them, it's going to be bad for them, I can show that it's wrong in the experiment. I can show that actually, if you don't hug them, it's going to be, if you don't hug them, it's going to be bad for them. If you hug them, it's actually going to be good for them. All right, so that is the idea of falsifiability.
But rather than looking for supporting evidence, Popper argued scientists go out of their way to refute their own hypotheses, testing them to destruction. They go out searching for black swans, not more white swans. Science is all about falsification, not confirmation.
This is the reason why nowadays, those of you who study research methodology later on will find something really weird lah. In your learning, we would ask you to focus on null hypothesis. So null, N-U-L-L, meaning zero. Yeah. Null hypothesis means that it's supposed to be that you are predicting nothing is going to happen. Okay. Let's say that I'm testing for the effect of a drug lah. Let's say I take a drug, blood pressure will reduce. Okay, supposed to be a blood pressure reduction drug. But instead of saying that, oh, I predict that my drug will reduce blood pressure in an experiment, you are supposed to say that I predict that my drug will have no effect. That's the idea of falsification here. And that's the reason why when you are studying this, you will always be saying, oh, please write the null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is really important, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at it in journal articles, no one do it. Almost no one do it, sorry. No, almost no one do it. I should not be saying that as a generalization. Most people will just go with the alternative, which means that they will say that the drug would reduce blood pressure. We will predict that the drug will be effective. That's it. No one will actually go with what they're saying that, oh, it's supposed to be a null and stuff, yeah? So, yeah, it is a contradiction between practice and supposedly the knowledge or education per se, lah, yeah? You ask me why, I don't know. They are saying that supposedly if you use a null hypothesis, it will keep you from being biased. As we'll discuss later, one of the key features of being a scientist is that you're not going to be biased, even by your own ideas lah or benefit lah and things like that. But to be honest, like it works, man. I don't really know, like. So yeah, but it's to explain for those of you who experience this or will be experiencing in the future, this is the reason why, all right?
It's a series of conjectures and refutations. A former Marxist himself, Popper wasn't fond of Marxism. Marxists argued that theirs was a scientific analysis of history. Everything that happened was determined by class struggle, and a workers' revolution was inevitable. However, when the workers failed to revolt, rather than taking this as a refutation of their view, Marxists suggested workers were simply victims of false consciousness, unable to see the situation as it truly was.
See, the thing is that he predicted that workers should actually rebel against the class in power, lah, okay, or the class who are ruling class, okay. Supposedly that's the case because they are not really happy with what they have, etc. But then he also said that, oh, if they do not actually rebel or revolt, that means that they are under false consciousness, which means that
Popper fulminated against this way of dealing with counter-evidence, claiming it immunized Marx's hypotheses, which were originally testable, turning them into irrefutable pseudoscience. There was no imaginable observation that could prove the Marxists were wrong. If the workers revolted, that showed the Marxists were right. If they didn't revolt, that also showed they were right. It was win-win.
That's the idea of irrefutability, and that makes it an unsolvable problem because you're never able to show that it's actually wrong. Whatever happens, Marx is correct. Yeah, that means that it's not science. How can it be? There's no point in testing it even. What is the point? All right. There's actually one of the issue with Freud as well, where Freud's idea basically consists of a lot of things like Oedipus complex and stuff that says that, oh, it's because you are in love with your mother romantically, this and that. Okay. And what happened if the patient or client actually told him that, oh, you are wrong, I never actually have that feeling? Freud will say that, oh, you are in denial. That's the reason why you can't admit it. Okay. And then he will actually convince the patient that they are actually in love with their mother and stuff. Okay. That is unfalsifiable. And again, that doesn't make a good science. Anything that you cannot say is wrong, it's not going to make sense later down the road. Okay. So this is the first thing that you need to determine. For you guys who are thinking about actually having your research and stuff, make sure that whatever question that you're asking is fit two criteria. One, you can test it. Meaning that if you are going to say that I want to test whether let's say drinking coffee in the morning would makes you a better person, let's say something like that lah. Then the question will becomes like, what is better person? Is it testable or not? How to test whether someone is a better person or not? Okay, so there is testability. Number two, if it's going to be testable, can it be falsifiable or not? Can I say that, okay, drinking coffee either have no effect, the person still remain the same, 3 coffee, 4 coffee, 5 coffee, no difference, or the more coffee they drink, the worse they become. Instead of becoming a better person, they become a worse person. Can we actually show that? That would be falsifiable, all right? If you're able to actually fulfill those two criteria, your question at least is a valid research question where it can be tested, it can be falsifiable, it can be falsified. Okay, but saying that whether it's a good or not, there's another matter. Yeah, it's just that it is something that can be done. Whether it's good or not, need other criteria to fulfill. Okay. So psychology, because of these things, the idea that you want to think about science is a bit different. You have to actually fulfill that two criteria. Actually help to separate psychology from folk wisdom or what we call common sense. Okay. First questions you want to think about. If you can answer this in the chat as well, is common sense right? Always right. Okay, but I find you guys don't really want to respond for some reason. In that case, it's fine. Just have it in your mind. Like, is common sense actually always right? All right. Also, in your mind, think of the common sense that you have or can think of now. What seems to be the things that are common sense to you? So when we actually talk about common sense, it means that, oh, these are things everyone know lah. It must be correct one. Like this is supposed to be a thing to do ma. Yeah, hence why it's called common sense. For example, look before you leap. So you should actually look around your surrounding, actually predict what is going to happen first before you take an action. Yeah, you should take your time. Seems to be correct. Yeah, you should be careful when you're making a decision. You should not simply jump into conclusion and make a decision that, this is what I want to do and stuff. Saying that, there's also a saying that says, he who hesitates is lost. Like if you already know what you're going to do, why take so long to think about it? You should just go ahead and do it. The longer it takes, the worse it will become. You will just keep on hesitating. You're not going to reach a conclusion. Also seem to be correct, right? But both of them cannot be both correct. Either one only what? Either you should look and consider longer before you make a decision, or you should just make your decision fast because you should already know what you want. Again, both are common sense. Same thing. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like when you do not see the people that you love, the people that's important to you, you miss them more. Seems to make sense, right? But also there's the saying, outside, out mind. You don't see them, you don't think about them. After a while, the relationship will become less intimate. You don't think about them anymore. So the love has disappeared, basically. Also seem to happen, right? If you think about it, you actually heard both things, correct? Even in Chinese, no? But both of them cannot be correct. So what is actually happening here? Same thing, haste makes waste. If you try to do things too fast, chances are you are going to fail. Saying that, there's also the saying that time waits for no man. If you want to do it now. If not, someone else will have taken it. Someone else will do it. All right, why wait? Again, both cannot be correct. Yeah? Why do we have such a thing? Because when we talk about common sense or whatever folk wisdom, it's all after the fact. It is something that people say after their own experience. So people would say that look before you leap is a common sense because they have failed before if they do not consider things carefully. Thing is, people would say he who hesitates is lost is because they actually think too long about something and it seems like they fail. They did not actually grab the chance to do something. They lose the opportunity. All right. But doesn't mean that it will apply to other people. I remember when we talked about generalization earlier on, any scientific stuff, let it be knowledge, let it be interventions, etc., should be applicable to more than one person, or if possible, to more the better, yeah, the general population or majority of the population. And that's where folk wisdom cannot be, because it's based on what we call experience. Yeah. Hence why you now think about it, for all the old saying per se, they are always contradictory one. That's the reason why you cannot say that we have common sense. We don't need psychology. There is no such a thing, because again, psychology is science. Folk wisdom is not. All right. So what have something interesting like in psychology is that one Lazarsfeld actually did something that actually test this out, where he actually asked people about the experience after World War II. This is 1949. He said that men from rural background, which means that if they are living in the countryside rather than in the city, they were in better spirit during their time of service when they are fighting the war than soldiers from the city background. So when he actually published this and asked people to express what they think, most people agree with them. What do you think? Do you agree with the fact or not? The reasoning was that people who are living in the rural background or the countryside and stuff are already used to hardship. They don't have things like comfortable home. Like even imagine for today hard to imagine the war in 1949. Imagine for today people, let's say, live in countryside, don't have aircon. They are used to work in the field. They already have a really hard life. They are doing physical labor and etc. So it makes sense that when they are serving in the military, they are more used to it. They are actually in better spirit. Yeah, they can handle it better. Do you agree with that or not? So when they explain to that, most people seem to agree, yeah? Like, oh, this actually makes sense, what? Yeah? Because people who are in the countryside already used to hardship and everything. But then he actually lied. The evidence was that the opposite was true. People in the city background actually fare better. Reason being is, like I say, those people have better SCS and social support. They are able to handle things better because they have things to fall back on. They have a good life to fall back on. They have a good reason or stronger reason to fight for it. Yeah, so the opposites were actually true, not the other way around. This one, for those who are interested, is actually one of the things recorded in a book called Everything is Obvious Once You Know the Answer, which is trying to argue against the whole idea of common sense. For psychologists, there's no such thing. There is no such thing as common sense. We do not believe in it. All right. There is nothing common about common sense. Like we mentioned just now, there are even things that contradictory each other. So no such thing. Yeah. Okay. So reality sometimes is quite complex. You can't even answer to say that, oh, it's correct or wrong in the sense. Just now we show you things that are contradictory, right? We can even show you things that it seems like they are supporting evidence, but in fact, it's actually more complex. For example, there's a general idea that children bring happiness to their parents. That's why nowadays a lot of people would ask younger people to have children. Okay? So children always bring happiness to you. Look at me. Now I feel like when I'm retired, my children last time actually bring me a lot of happiness, etc. This is supported by actual evidence. When they actually survey people who already retired and ask them to think about their children when they are growing up and etc., they feel like they bring them great happiness. Like they will say things like, oh, there's actually nothing better than having children in your life and etc. Okay? For those of you, all of you are really young, okay? You never have children already yet. What do you think of this? Because there will be time where your parents might actually do the same thing to you. They might tell you, you should have children. You look at me. You were my joy and stuff. You makes me so happy last time, blah, blah, blah. They will do that. My mother do the same thing to me. And he promised me that he's going to help to take care of my child and stuff. And she did not when my child is born. So we are saying that, what is the problem of this? Seems like it is actually supported by evidence, right? The problem is that when you're asking people who are retired, what you are basing on is what we call retrospective data. You are asking people to look at times backward. You're trying to remember the time they have with their children. Chances are, you ask people who can retire and children are still actually living and etc., they will remember the good times with their children. They will try to remember every happy thing, etc., rather than sad things. All right. So when people repeat the studies on current parents who are actually still raising their children, etc., and ask them about their happiness and experience ongoing. So what happened if this is that they will use a method called experience sampling, where let's say they will approach parents like me, and then every day they will send me some text and ask me, can you complete this questionnaire about your happiness right now? You're thinking about your children and stuff. They found that children actually make people less happy, when you are having them, when you need to take care of them. Totally opposite. This is also true. Okay. So means that when you actually have children, it will only makes it harder on you, which is true. I will admit that it's true. It's actually hard. But if you ask me whether it's worth it or not, I would say that it is. Not saying that you should have it. I will tell you now. If you're not ready, please don't. Okay? Not saying that you should have it. For me, we are somewhat ready. We find it's a really good experience. But saying that taking care of a child is a lot of work. A lot of work. All right. So most of them, as in terms of prospective data, which means that you are measuring the data as it is ongoing. Once you have children, everything in terms of happiness drop, especially during the first 2 years. The satisfaction of your marriage, the happiness in general, everything drop. It's going to be quite a significant commitment, hence why, yeah. But again, if you ask me, worried or not, definitely worried. Okay. For me, yeah. So hence why I explain why when you ask people who already retired, they will say that, oh, it's actually worth it, it's happy and stuff. Okay, because in general, as the child grow up, it would be somewhat happy, I guess more happy than not, especially if you are those parents who actually pay attention to the child and stuff. Yeah, it will be more happy than not. Yeah. But you can see how complex the whole thing is. Yeah. If you simply put it into common sense, it's definitely going to be wrong because the picture is really complex, not necessarily just say, oh, it's just like that. It depends on where you look at it. All right. If you look at it at the point, it will be bad. If you look at it afterwards, it will actually be good. Yeah. Good news is that all these folks, wisdom, folk belief, etc., not really immune to evidence, means that if you are able to produce scientific evidence to show that they are wrong, eventually they will go away. For example, not sure those of you actually recognize this or not. I personally don't know that there's such a picture, but when I search for it, it comes up. The boy in the picture, the one in the blue shirt, is actually Mozart. Okay, those of you who don't know the story, please go and research it. You can even watch the movie Amadeus. It's actually really, really good. So assuming that you know the story so Mozart was a musical prodigy. He actually get famous really early on, 4 years old, 5 years old. He already become one of the greatest composer, musician at his time. Yeah, actually famous throughout Europe and etc. But then he actually go downhill really fast and die really young because of all the bad influence like alcohol, drugs, all the prostitution and things like that. So it brings about the whole idea of the cliche that for children is early ripe, early rotten, meaning that if a child become famous, like childhood prodigy, etc., early on, they will eventually become ruined in later life. Either they are no longer as popular or they will actually become worse, like become drug dealer, drug addiction, people addicted to drug, this and that. Oh, yeah, seems to be something that is generally accepted, right? Okay. But it's less and less mentioned nowadays. Reason being is that it's not shown to be accurate by psychological evidence. When we actually look at the evidence, childhood prodigy, most of them grow up to be okay, or if not really good. Yeah, we actually remember the early ripe, early rotten thing due to something called availability heuristic. Because if you talk about someone who is a child prodigy and then become famous, it's no fun. I don't want to see people who are already having a good life early on to have good life ongoing. Most people want to see people who have good life early on suffer later. That brings me more idea of fairness. Hence why if you look at all the TV shows, tabloid, They will only focus on one that, oh, they are really famous when they are young, but now see what happened to them. They are drug addict, they are ruined and stuff like that, so that you are happier. But evidence show that that's not the case. Okay. Same thing as one of the things we discussed later. So that one I will leave it first. Okay, so it's shown inaccurate by psychological evidence, and eventually it will get accepted in the general culture, where people will accept that that's wrong. There is no such thing as like early ripe, early rotten. Children do not get ruined by early success and things like that. They are actually okay. If not doing better, they are actually going to be okay. Chances are they are, yes. So to be serious, it is. Okay. So that's that, the whole idea of common sense. So that actually finish up with this part. Next, with all the knowledge that or things that we already discussed previously, yeah, okay, about folk wisdoms, about psychology, how is it a science, etc. For you now, try to go through this exercise. You can go and take a break and stuff as you want to while you're doing this, using whatever ability that you have in research, let it be online, whatever lah. Determine if these things are myth or fact. Is it true or not? We will actually go through them later on. Okay, so let's spend about, looking at the time that we have, let's spend about 20 minutes on this one. If you finish early, you let me know, we can start earlier. All right, but this is just to give you a taste of this lah. How are you going to use all these things that you already learn just now to determine whether these things are real or not? You can actually ask Google. Doesn't matter. You can ask Google whether we actually use 10% of our brain to see what actually comes out, right? But actually, before you do that, try to think of whether you believe that or not first. What is your thought on these things? Are they real or not? Then only try to find out. Okay? It will actually, the purpose of this is to give you an idea of why is it important to actually study research method. Like I say early on, one of the most important things is that it helps you to determine whether something is good or bad, whether something is true or false, right? So go ahead and do that. Later, we'll actually discuss each of the point according to my own research. If you feel like I'm wrong and we want to go through a bit detail into it, we can do that, all right? But for now, let's do that first. Okay, let's do that for 20 minutes. I'll see you in 20. Or like I say, if early on, you finish it already, put it into the chat. If everyone finish early, we can just continue. Yeah? Right.
This man placed a bullet into the boy's mouth and told him not to swallow it. The boy was about to be hanged, but with the bullet lodged just right, he might get just enough air to survive. The man's only request? If the boy lived, he must grow up and take revenge. As the man was being led to the gallows, he noticed the cage door had been left open. Instead of escaping, he sprinted straight toward the executioner, pulled him off his horse, and carved a deep slash across his face with his own dagger, ensuring the scar would be a reminder for the day they meet again. Soon after, the boy was taken to the gallows. The soldiers assumed he had died and left the area, but when some villagers came to collect the bodies for burial, they were stunned. The boy was still breathing. He spat the bullet from his mouth, alive. 20 years later, the boy had grown into a powerful man. He eventually tracked down the executioner, identified him by his scar, and brought him back to the very same place where he'd once been left for dead. This man placed a bullet into the boy.
欢迎二位帅哥来我司面试。我要问一些问题，请如实回答。
没有问题，全力配合。
这位大胡子，请简单介绍一下自己。
我是人，
好巧，我也是。我是说，简单介绍一下你自己。
这还不够简单吗？
你是怎么找到我们公司的？
手机导航。
我是说，你是通过什么方式来我们公司的？
坐萝卜快跑来的。
哎，你什么学历？
小学本科。
你获得过哪些荣誉？
幼稚园的时候获得过阳光宝贝称号。
你结婚了吗？
你问这个干嘛？你要给我份子钱吗？
请问你有哪些工作经验？
我卖过几年猪肉，3块钱1斤，10块钱3斤。
我卖过绿豆，1块钱3斤，2块钱5斤。
哎，你的组织能力怎么样？
我组织能力超强的。
举个例子。
我组织过公司集体大罢工，上一个公司就是这么倒闭的。
佩服佩服。你的背景是什么？
我的背景应该是一面墙。
我是说，你有什么背景吗？
我爸是东汉500强企业家，我和马斯克拜过把子，和比尔盖茨称兄道弟，和巴菲特是忘年交。
佩服佩服。那你的特长是什么？
我的特长是吹牛，刚才就不小心吹了一下。
我们公司员工有镇山的虎、远见的鹰、团结的狼、忠诚的狗。你觉得你是什么？
你们公司是动物园吗？
我就是打个比方，告诉我你是什么？
我是害群的马，
我是搅屎的棍。
你的人生目标是什么？
我的目标就是不上班。
你不上班，你会饿死的。
我见过上班猝死的，没见过不上班饿死的。
你希望怎样和领导共事？
他干他的，我干我的。
这样是不是有些不团结？
那就他干我的，我干他的。
这样是不是又有些失职呢？
那你到底想让俺老张怎么干？
你怎么能这样回答问题？你这是面试的态度吗？看我怎么回答。你还是问我吧。
你对我们公司了解多少？
我对贵公司多少了解一点点。
那到底了解多少呢？
我刚才说了，了解一点点。
你英语6级考过了吗？
考过了，没考过。
到底考没考过？
你听不懂吗？考过了，没考过。
谈谈你做过的成功案例。
我成功的把上一家公司搞黄了。
俺也一样。
说说你的家庭。
我有一个家庭，家里有爸爸妈妈、爷爷奶奶。
我是让你说说你和他们的关系。
我爸和我是父子关系，我妈和我是。
俺也一样。
月给你多少工资合适？
越多越好。
俺也一样。
你怎么看加班这件事？
我会睁着眼睛看。
你的优点是什么？
我的优点就是没有缺点。
那你的缺点又是什么？
我刚说过，我没有缺点。
哎，你做过的哪件事让你觉得自己很勇敢？
扶老太太过马路。
那最令自己感到骄傲的事又是什么？
骑老太太过马路。
在什么情况下会让你特别努力？
在上厕所的情况下，我会特别努力。
公司规定提前半个小时上班，凡事提前半个小时是个好习惯，你怎么看？
那我能提前半个小时下班吗？
我公司需要能力强的人，那你会来事吗？
啊？你怎么会问我这个问题？我可是男的。
男的怎么了？男的就不能会来事吗？
没有这个功能。
哎，你一天能干几天活？
不出意外的话，一天只能干1天活。
我公司业务，我是说你一天能干2天活吗？
不出意外的话，我一顿能吃2顿饭。
俺也一样。
告诉我上一家公司没有录用你的真正原因。
面试的时候，因看不惯老板问了很多无聊的问题，
一怒之下杀了那厮。杀人怎的？俺老张恨不得杀尽天下老板。
好，在下告辞。
哪里走？
你还想跑？
Hey, I'm back. Okay, let's go through this. See whether it's actually consistent with your research or not. Yeah, whether they are actually true, like facts or myth, etc. First one is one of the most commonly believed or distributed myth where, yeah, because of TV program and etc., we kind of believe that we only use about 10 to 15% of our brain. Those who are geniuses actually use like more than that, maybe about 20 to 30%. This is totally a myth. There is no such thing. Basically, we engage totality of our brain, even if we are not actually using part of it. Because remember, your cells need to be active in order for it to be alive. Yeah, you say that you only use 10% of your brain means that you're 90% brain dead. It would means that you basically practically die already lah. Okay, so that doesn't actually make sense at all. So yeah, the whole thing is just doesn't make sense. Why we even have that kind of information is that it was basically a cherry pick information from a study that involved emotional expression or emotional understanding, where the study authors, the researcher trying to suggest that, looking at the brain scanning data, it seems like when we are looking at emotion, we are able to process about 10% of the information and stuff like that. So the whole thing was misunderstood as well, we only use 10% of our brain. Yeah, we would actually discuss why it happens, like why such a things can actually happen. And unfortunately, it is not that uncommon. Especially nowadays because of social medias and online magazines and stuff, these things actually happen more often than we like, definitely. The other one is also something that uh just 2 years ago, 1 year ago, a lot of institutions or tutorial center like to actually market to parents. Like they're saying that, your child, we can actually access them to see whether their learning style is either or visual, or is it auditory, or is it kinesthetic, meaning that they actually need to learn by moving and that. And we will be able to design based on that so that your children actually learn it better. This is actually a myth. So don't waste time actually doing anything like that. You are able to access whether someone learning style is visual, auditory, or whatever. You can using Gartner's like IQ test, which is by itself not really that valid. But you can, like I say, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, there's no such thing as that, or your information that you learn must match your learning style. Okay, the only evidence or the only findings that come out from this kind of research that seems to have some value is the more the more medium you engage, the better you remember the information. Means that while you're reading, you are also listening to the audio recording saying the same thing or relevant to the topic, you remember it better. If you are able to watch a video that have to do with it, that actually have visual, that have words, that have like audio, that will even be better. Hence why video would be a best way to actually learn something if you are able to put your effort into actually learning, actually producing the video. Next one, left brain people are logical, right brain people are creative. Again, no such thing. This one I know because a lot of people are still telling me things that, we can actually get your son to do this kind of program so that he will become more creative, or most people will be just focusing on left brain, etc. Now, this one is tricky because there is a bit of separation between the left and right hemisphere, where left hemisphere is more responsible for logical stuff, like language, like science. Right side, unlike hemisphere, is responsible for more things that are art, patterns, etc. Okay, but in most people, your right and left hemisphere are connected to each other. So there's no such thing as left brain people and right brain people. You process all information. Okay, is there such a thing of people who are more tend to logical sense or creative sense? Yes, there is, but has nothing to do whether you're left-brained or right-brained or not. Okay, it has to do with more exposure and things that the person actually use more time to deal with when they're growing up. If they're dealing more with arts and creative stuff, yes, they will become more creative. If they've been learning about science, mathematics, and stuff, they will become more logical. That's it. Okay, so whatever practice that they say, look at this picture, it will make your child become right brain, etc. All bull, waste of money. Okay, saying that, next one is money can buy happiness. Correct or not? Most, I think, of us would actually agree it must be correct. Yeah, that's the reason why we are doing all these things. Why are we even waking up in the morning of Saturday actually doing this while you can sleep in? Because money can buy happiness. This one is tricky. It's somewhat true. Okay? Money definitely can buy happiness, but up to a certain point. Meaning that when you are hungry, when you are really deprived, like you really need money for like buy food lah, shelter lah, all these things, yeah, money is really important. It will make you happy. But after you reach a certain point where it doesn't actually add any value to you, like only thing you can do is like those stupid rich people, you buy yacht lah, you buy really expensive car lah. Yeah, it doesn't actually makes you happy past that point. That's why you see rich people like Elon Musk actually go and do really stupid stuff. Okay, depending on whatever they are looking for, they think that they need. The recommended way for rich people to go is like actually learning from Bill Gates. So instead of focusing on getting more money, which they don't feel like anymore, that's why you see Jack Ma say, money is not something that I work for. You should not actually look at money because for them, it doesn't actually have value anymore. Okay, so for Bill Gates, he engaged in philanthropy where he helps people. That actually makes him happy. All right, so yeah, that's where the money thing comes in. That's why it's tricky. If you do need them, it will bring you happiness after a certain point. Not necessarily like Bill Gates, Elon Musk level, yeah. After a certain point where you do not feel like your life is actually threatened, like you feel quite secure. Like in Northern Europe, where if a person don't work, they will still get social welfare so that they are not going to go starve. They will have enough money to even go online, buy cell phone, and engage online games and stuff. Yeah, money is not really something that they will look for. Okay, so depends on whether it is something that a person need or not. Yeah, saying that it means that as long as you're able to provide something that a person need, they will feel happy. Okay, money is not the main thing here. Is whatever the person is needing or motivated by, which is linking back to Maslow hierarchy of needs. Okay, next one is interesting. Ask yourself whether you are racist or not. Okay, research evidence found that there's the case. Everyone is a racist. Racist not saying that we will go on the street and then look for black people and kill them and stuff like not like that. Okay, racist in the sense that we have belief about people who are our in-group and our out-group. Like if you are Chinese, like I do, I have certain belief about Chinese. And same thing, I will have certain belief about Malay lah, Indian law, or people who are non-Chinese. That actually makes me a racist. Okay, like I actually have an idea that all black people are like that. They are violent, they are lazy lah, and stuff like that. Yeah, they are not true. I know that they are not true. Yeah, because data shows me that they are not true. But still, when I am thinking about like Chinese people versus black people, I will still think that black people is dangerous. They are violent, and that you cannot help. You cannot control the thoughts and the attitudes because of the way that we have been exposed to information. Our brain tells us that black people are dangerous because all these movies, drama series tell us that that's the case. So even despite you knowing the evidence that there's no such thing, your brain would tell you that, this is the thing that you have been told previously. Okay, so you cannot control your attitude or thoughts, but you can definitely control your behavior, meaning that I might think that black people are more dangerous when I first encounter them and stuff. Doesn't mean that I will run away whenever I see a black person, because I can control my behavior while I cannot control my thoughts. Yeah, same thing if you think about it, when you are traveling in an airplane versus when you are driving or in a car. Which one are you more afraid of? Most of us will be more tense when we are in a plane. Okay, although again, evidence tells us that plane is the safest form of travel. That doesn't matter. I still feel afraid when I'm in a plane rather compared to when I'm in a car. Okay, so this is actually the same thing. So when you go into psychology, you learn more why that is the case. Something that's actually studied by Kahneman as well, by the way, the Nobel Prize winner, laureate. So next one, you cannot trust eyewitness testimony in court, which has been shown in movies or real life where it's really important, right? Like, who else can you trust if not people who actually see things happen? But evidence show that there is actually the case that you cannot trust eyewitness testimony. Not necessarily that they are all wrong per se, but they are easily misled and they can be easily changed, manipulated, depending on things that happen after the event. So what we call post-event information, So let's say someone actually see witness a murder. Yeah, they see, yeah, going back to the worst thing, a black guy actually murdered a white woman. Let's say something like that. Okay. But because if they have not asked about the thing right after, let's say that they actually wait for 2 days before they interview them, and he has watched in news about all these things talking about the black guy or the white woman, his memory will be changed, yeah, because memory does not work like a camera, which is number 8. Number 7, opposites attract, which is talking about romantic relationship lah. Like if you are different personality, etc., you should be more likely to attract each other. Also, boo, is a myth. This one is actually quite interesting because it's linked to a whole area of study called attraction, where in the social psychology trying to look at what sort of people are attracted to what sort of people per se lah. They found that instead of saying opposite attract, the more likely phenomenon is what we call matching hypothesis, where people are going to more likely to date within their own league. So you will look for people who are at a similar attractiveness level as you, and you tend to date there or more successful at the same level, rather than say that it's actually looking opposite. In terms of personality, we are more likely to look for people who are similar personality as we are, particularly when it comes to values, 所谓的三观. So those things actually have to be consistent. If not, you are basically asking for trouble. Okay, so saying that opposite attracts is bull. There's no such evidence. As we mentioned just now, memory does not work as a camera. This one itself also is a whole field of research on how people memory are so bad. Not necessarily that we forget things. It's more that our memory can be changed quite easily by introducing some wrong information and etc. Okay. Number 9, lie detector. Those things that you see in FBI movies or series where you are able to tell whether someone is lying or not. They work, which of course is a myth. Yeah. Okay. That's the reason why in actual court, you never see them used as evidence. Polygraph, whatever lie detector it is, cannot be admitted as evidence because research shows that they are not reliable. Not reliable in the case that the chances of them able to tell whether someone is lying or not is 50%, around there, which means that you really can't tell whether someone is lying or not. Like if the accuracy rate is 10%, it's good. You just go opposite. Meaning that when someone say, polygraph say that the person is lying, but the accuracy rate is 10%, means that they are 90% not lying. That's actually good. You can use it for the opposite purpose. But the problem is that lie detector, a lie detector study has shown that the accuracy is about 49 to 51. So it is 50-50. Hence why that thing is definitely a waste of time. You can use it to frighten people who don't know. So you can actually tell suspect that there's no point lying. We are attaching you to a lie detector and we will tell whether you are lying or not. You can do that. That might work if they never studied or they never go and research on this kind of stuff. But in actual practice, it doesn't work. Again, you can see why they never use it in court. If it works, wouldn't it be much easier in court? Why need the cross-examining and things like that? Just hope the weakness on the lie detector. The reason why we don't do it is that it doesn't work. Saying that, we do have a technology now that works. Instead of saying that it's lie detector, it's actually a fMRI machine. Something that's able to scan your brain activity because there is such an area that you engage in when you are lying. So by detecting the activity in the area, you are able to tell whether someone is lying or not. We can do that reliable now. Okay. But unfortunately, the court rules that cannot serve as evidence as well because it's an invasion of privacy. The idea is that you should not be able to see what is happening in a person's mind. Yeah, so that is considered as an invasion. Hence why it cannot be allowed as evidence, but we can do it. So see how human technology can improve. Okay, and again, why looking at evidence is important because it tells you things that most people think works like lie detector and stuff. They do not. All right, but saying that we do have the technology now. Number 10, women multitask better than men. Another widespread myth. Reason not because that is wrong or there are no differences. The reason why this is a myth is that psychology wise, there is no such thing as multitasking. There is no such thing where you can do multiple things at the same time. Evidence shows that we can only engage in one thing at one time. So when you're thinking that you are engaging in multiple things, actually you are ignoring something else and focusing on one thing only. Okay. The problem is that when you need to seem like you're doing multiple things, I actually type lah while I'm talking to people lah and stuff. What you're doing is actually called switching, where you will finish typing first, then you talk. And then you stop talking and then back to typing. You can only do one thing at one time. If you don't believe me, you can try. Okay? But they have to be different. Not like I talk while I type the same thing. No, that would be the same thing. You try to talk to someone while typing. Even simply now listening to me now and try to type something else in your mind. See whether you're able to pay attention to both or not. You cannot. You can only switch from one to another. And that is not recommended because switching have something called switching costs. The more you try to do that, the worse the performance will be. Okay, saying that the whole thing can be getting a bit complex. For example, like, is it recommended to listen to music while you're studying? In some cases, actually, yes. That's why I say the picture is a bit complex. But in general, there is no such thing as multitasking. All right. Next one. For those who are considering counseling and therapy, hypnosis, whether it's actually a good idea or good tool to have or not, because it's getting really, really popular. And when there will be, for those of you who are interested, there will be a lot of advertisement on this already, right? You have received advertisement that says this is the London Hypnosis Association, whatever lah. That one is a Global Hypnosis Association, this and blah lah. That says that, okay, no worries, bye-bye. They actually says that they can actually help with all these things, and after you have finished it, they will get the cert, then you can become a practitioner. This one, the picture is a bit complex, somewhat complex. Reason being is that in therapy, hypnosis is effective in general, but only works on really small stuff, and the effect is not long lasting. Basically, let's say simple, something like weight loss, which is really popular nowadays, where people believe that you go to a hypnosis, they will try to hypnotize you, and then easier for you to get weight loss. Somewhat effective, all right? Because it will convince people of like controlling their diet and things like that. But you need to go back to the hypnosis every 2 weeks. It won't like you hypnotize them once and then that's it. It's more serve as a reminder. Okay, just simply by hypnosis itself, to be honest, if you ask me, I don't feel like it has any evidence or any effect. Yeah, if the person never actually decided to do anything, or seriously, they just need someone else to use this kind of stuff to convince them. That's me. Like I say, evidence-wise, whether it works or not, yes, it does on something really minor stuff. When you say actual things like depression, etc., they do not work. They doesn't help like people feel better for depression or cure them. Definitely no. For small stuff like weight loss, maybe like quitting cigarette or something like that, kind of work. Okay. Next one is something that really popular. I don't know whether it's still popular with you guys or not. Like my time, especially when I start teaching 5 years ago, 6 years ago, this was really popular. Even nowadays, there's a lot of actual lecturers or professor in university that still hold on to the idea that, or they are proud practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, where you are able to practice this thing that will change your brain program and stuff. Okay, that will make you a better salesman, better learner, better student, blah, blah, blah. This one is bull. No such thing. It doesn't work. Seriously, it doesn't work. We would want it to work, to be honest. Like if it does, then it would be really good. We can just simply teach people to how to program their brain, how to work by simply teaching them what sort of things to say, etc. All bull, doesn't work. Waste a lot of time. But then it creates certain interesting things where people who are supposed to be psychologists, like they learn psychology, they become PhD, they become lecturer, and they go and learn these things, and then now you show them evidence that it does not work, they are not going to listen to you. They will fight it, or they will ignore it. They will just say that, oh, it works. You see, I have so many cases where it works now, this and that. They basically fall into the same trap as Freud. Like, all these case studies show that it works. You see, I have cases where they are feeling more confident becoming a salesman, this and that. They are basically just case study. Yeah. Actual research evidence show that no effect whatsoever, only a waste of money. What about next one? Next one is even more popular, the whole idea of law of attraction. In order to want something, you want to really want it. You need to tell your brain that you really want it. Like the one, the one that I actually see in the advertisement of the whole idea. This one is to do with the book The Secret. Any of you who actually buy that book, you can throw it away now. Okay? Don't read anything in the way. It's basically bull. The one that I actually read the idea is that, oh, last time I never get a parking near my work. Now every morning I actually spend 15 minutes thinking that I will get the parking, I will get the parking. I think I actually get the parking. Like, yeah, those things totally bull. No such thing. Yeah, this one is an example of what we say unfalsifiable. The linguistic programming can be falsifiable. That's why we say the evidence show that it doesn't work. Okay, law of attraction, there is no evidence because it cannot be falsified. If you think about it, I say, like, let's say use a parking example. If you say that this morning I actually start early on and I keep on thinking that I want the parking, I want to get a parking near my place for 30 minutes. If you get the parking, it works, right? Like, because I think really hard in the morning, I actually get the parking. What if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, you did not think hard enough, lor. You did not think long enough, lor. Okay, it should work. The reason why it doesn't work is that you did not do it correctly, so it's not falsifiable. Hence why there's no evidence that say that it does not work, because it itself is not a solvable problem or testable idea. Okay, hence it's really, really bad thing, for psychologists. All right, if you're going to be a psych student next time, don't ever use that thing. It's really, really bad. Next one is people work harder when they are being observed. This one somewhat true. Yeah, but if you think about it, also it's the same. If you're working, your boss is looking over you, you will work harder. You will pay more attention, at least show that you're working. Why is it somewhat true is that actual performance, you might not be doing better. You might do worse. Okay, there is another thing called like social facilitation and stuff, right? Especially when you're doing something that you're not used to, it's new to you, you're still learning, and someone watch over your shoulder, it's only going to get it worse. You're not going to do better, right? Next one, lower self-esteem cause many psychological problems, which is again a really widespread thing where people try to get patients to improve their self-esteem. This was quite popular 10 years ago because they believe that it actually caused a lot of psychological problem. This one again is a myth. There is a link. There is a link between people who have like life problem and psychological disorder to feel like they have lower self-esteem. Definitely, you can understand why. Okay, but saying that lower self-esteem is the cause is wrong. Yeah, it's not likely to be the actual underlying cause. Next one, mental health problem are rare. This one also is a myth. It's actually quite common. Globally, considering all the possible psychological disorder, 1 in 4 actually have some experience of it, diagnosis included. So it's about 25% of people have psychological disorder, not really rare anymore. It's 1/4. Yeah. Next one, therapy is only about talking, about your feelings and stuff. This one, of course, is wrong. Then if it's just talking, there's no reason for you to go through the trouble of becoming a counselor. Okay. So in counseling course or therapy course, you learn a lot of different techniques that you can use. So it's not actually about talking. Not saying that talking does not help. There are evidence to show that simply talking helps. Okay. But it's not going to be as effective as when you are applying evidence-based things, like things that have been tested that shows that it helps people with depression. This is how you help people with schizophrenia and etc. Something that we'll talk about later on. Next one is like gender differences. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. This one generally shown to be wrong. There are some gender differences, particularly when it comes to ability and stuff. But to be honest, most of them are negligible. It's not going to contribute towards anything. So that's why it's considered as a myth. Not like they're actually from different planet. That one definitely wrong. Next one is MBTI. That don't know. Chances are you guys have already done this beforehand. Like, what is your type? Is it INTJ or etc. and etc. They serve as a good guide of life because it tells you what you're interested in, what you're good at, etc. This one, unfortunately, is a myth. While it can be interesting things to do with friends, it's quite interesting to discuss between the different types. Evidence of study that's not conducted by Myers-Briggs organization themselves has shown that they are total bull. They do not do anything. it's not actually a good idea to categorize people into personality category or group anyway. Yeah, so personality is supposed to be what we call dimension or trait, not supposed to be a category. Despite that, this is the most popular personality test in the world, yeah, especially when it comes to actual work practice. Like company still hire people to do this so that they are able to tell, oh, who I should be promoting to be the manager, lah, this and that. Despite the fact that we have been telling them that it doesn't work, people don't like to listen to research evidence. They like to listen to psychology to do something else. Okay, but this does not work. Yeah, it can be something still fun to do. All right, but to say there's a valid side measure is it's not. Even Carl Jung himself, which is supposed to be the psychologist that the whole thing is based on, say that it should not work like that. It is not his original idea. Myers-Briggs, who is not a sister, who is not really psychologist, both of them actually started this whole thing as a con lah. It's just that it becomes one of the most successful con in the world only in history. Okay, so yeah, still a con for us. Yeah? Next one is the idea that your personality can be affected or predicted based on the date of your birth. Let it be the Chinese or zodiac lah, or your astrology lah, etc. Or just like Alport say, it's your birth order. Whether you're firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, in the middle, and etc., it will affect it. This one in general also a myth. Alport 1 has been tested even early on, like after Alport provided his idea. Yeah, in general, there's no such thing. There's no such thing like the middle child would be like this, the firstborn would be like this. Now, whether birth order have to do with the outcome in life, that one has been shown to be true. In general, the best thing that could happen to a child is that they are the only child. So if you are the only child, I congratulate you. Statistically, you are supposed to be the most likely to be successful in life compared to those others who have siblings. The reason why is that your parents' resources, particularly that time, is only focusing on the only child. That's it. No one else is going to need to share it. That's the reason why they fare the best. So for the benefit of the child, actually the best thing for them is that you do not have another child. All right. Not like companionship, etc. is important, but you are the one who's supposed to actually be the companion. Not like, oh, I give birth to another baby so that they can become friends and stuff. All right. So that's the second second best, if you cannot be the only child, is actually to be the eldest. The reason is similar. At least there is a time where you do not need to share. There's a time where you are the only child and your parents' resources is focusing on you. That seems to be the most important thing. All right. So there is no such thing as the only child is being spoiled as well. Evidence in general do not support it. Evidence in general support that the child would fare better if they are the only child. All right. So that is the myth or facts. Did you guys get it correct or not? Any particular one that you feel like, oh, I'm wrong, and you really want to discuss it, let me know. We show how we can actually show and go through how you determine whether it's actually a correct thing or not. Okay. But in general, that's the case. Yeah, these are the myth and truth. Like again, I say if you show me evidence that it's the other way around, please let me know. I will appreciate it, especially with the MBTI one. But MBTI, most things that says that they are valid are actually from the organization itself. So that we will not trust them. There's seriously no reason to actually trust them, because they have a clear conflict or interest here to show that whatever that they do, it works. Okay, let's go back to the material for a bit before we finish up the class. So we go back to the argument of why do you even want to actually do this? Like one thing that's shown just now is that it actually allows you to determine what is true or false. Of course, we don't actually have time to go through the detail of what those things we will learn later on when you try to determine this, where how are you going to look for literature research, how to determine whether a literature review is good or bad, etc. Those things you will learn later on in the psychology course per se. Okay? But it again shows that it allows you to see what is true or not. Like for me, it's something that's really important because I don't think anyone like to be lied to. Okay, so it's really essential for you to actually know particularly if you are going to spend money. let's say on the MBTI thing lah, on like particular training course, I feel like it's important for you to know, like, if I'm going to spend 8,000 ringgit or whatever to train in dream analysis, is it actually worth it or not? All right. So looking at that, you as a psychology student or just generally a person, okay, what do you want to do with research? There are two roles that you can take on. One is the producer. This is the one where you are the researcher lah. Yeah, typically you'll be the scientist or the professor who's teaching in the uni where you are going to conduct studies and publish it. Okay, this one is really essential. Of course, there's no escaping. If this is what you want to do, you definitely need to learn about the whole research method in details. Yeah, how to actually practice it, what is the good practice, this is bad, all those things there. Okay. If, like most psychology students, to be honest, if you are not looking forward to become a producer, then you should at least be the consumer. This is linked to what we talked about just now, where you look for the information, you read the information and gain the knowledge and apply it. It can be on a personal level or professional level. Personal level will be for what you did just now, where you go through this thing and say, oh, is it real or not? Then you go and research on it and determines whether it's actually good or bad, or real or false. Professional means that doesn't really matter what sort of practice that you're going in later. Once you finish your psychology, hopefully your master degree, at least if you're practicing psychology, yeah. Let it be counseling, let it be therapy, let it be child psychology, clinical, whatever it is. Whatever that you do should be based on research evidence, the whole evidence-based practice. This is really important right now. I think about 10 years ago, there's no such thing, where as a counselor or therapist, whatever that you decide to do in a session would be hantam, meaning that you just try and error. You say, oh, that one I think is interesting, let's actually try it out. Or it doesn't work, I change to another one. Like when the doctor is trying drug without any reason, they're just randomly hitting things. Okay, last time you can still do it. Nowadays, you cannot do it anymore. Nowadays, you need to keep something called a clinical notes or basically clinical notes or counseling notes or case notes, where when you are recommending or deciding on what to do in terms of treatment, for the client or the patient, you need to provide the evidence. Why are you using it? Out of all the possible methods, why are you using this one? What evidence tells you that it's actually going to work? What is the risk of doing it? You need to actually do that kind of stuff. And of course, which one to use would decide by your clinical expertise, where you would have experience, let's say, dealing with different patients and you have used different methods. And based on your experience, you found that for the particular patients or client, it seems like this is the one that best fit them, or it's something that they would like. They would prefer, let's say, to use something that's less invasive. They might not actually want to use medicine, let's say, they want to use something else. All right. So you need to consider everything and put it clearly in the notes regarding your justification and your decision of treatment. Meaning that if something gone wrong, let's say that touch wood, worst case scenario, you actually try your hair treatment on a particular client, but instead of treating them, they go and commit suicide, which there is unfortunate case like that. I'm not going to say that it's common, it's not, but there is common case. There are cases like that. Something that you learn quite a bit in ethics. If it does happen, then your case note would be your justification. You need to show that you did not do anything wrong. The reason why you choose this particular technique or treatment is that evidence tells you that this is the best thing. You actually ask the patient, they feel like this is okay, acceptable, then only you do it. This is important because now you can keep your job. You do not need to quit your job. You are not going to be sued in court and stuff. Even let's say that the family want to sue you, they are trying to blame you to actually cause the death, which is sad things, definitely. Okay. But if they do want to sue you and stuff, you are not eligible to anything, because whatever that you done is supported by evidence. You did nothing wrong. That's the key thing here. So this one is no different from actual medical practice. So now let's say that there's a surgery. In order, before you can decide what to do, you actually need to come up with the whole plan, explain it to the patient and their family. Only then you can do it. So you need to show them that, or what evidence actually tells you that cutting it in this way actually works. Like this is a better option than removing the whole arm and things like that. Okay, this is evidence-based practice. It's just that now for psychology, it's more and more important. Yeah, where you need to actually show this. In practice, of course, if you do become a psychologist in the future, you will engage in both. It's just the ratio that will be a bit different. If you do become a applied psychologist, where let's say like child psychologist or counselor and stuff, you will engage less in producing, more in consuming. Okay. Someone who teach in uni like me would be engaging both almost equally. Yeah, both like producing a research as well as reading. They do affect each other. There's no such thing that I will decide that I will only do one thing and not the other. You basically cannot escape. All right. But if you really, really, really don't like research, to be honest, you don't need to do any producing. Yeah, if you do become a counselor or therapist in the future, you don't need to actually produce any research. But I would recommend to become an active consumer of information. You always read on the things that's relevant or interested in to you, so that you are gaining more and more knowledge regarding like, oh, actually nowadays this is the most important thing to do. This is actually a new technique that I can use for this particular thing. Yeah, I really want to try it out, etc. Only then you'll become better and better. Chances are, if you just keep on doing something originally you learn and never actually change from it, you will not become better. Yeah, because like I say, every case is different. As you go, you will learn more and more on how to deal with different cases. And one of the way that will help you is that you actually gain more new information or technique regarding how to treat someone. Hence why for practitioner like a clinical psychologist or counselor and etc., you are required to do what we call continuous development, where you continuously learning something new every year. There must be like certain hour that you put into learning new things. It's because of this. Yeah, it's really, really essential. Then going to a bit of the theoretical side, you do want to engage, think about the theory data cycle. Yeah? This one is for those people who are thinking about starting their own research. Okay. Now, to be honest, we don't actually follow this. Like typically, like the theory data cycle is that, oh, I read something in the textbook or in the lecture. That actually give me an idea of what I want to research. Oh, that actually theory says that actually consistent with what I think about the other day or what I saw the other day. I really want to actually run this. It's called research question because there's no answer yet. I'm asking a question like, oh, like I say, just simply, would drinking 2 coffee in the morning better than drinking one only for like, attention, is something like that. Okay, it just brings me the question. Yeah, because in the lecture, I actually learned that, oh, that's how caffeine works. Yeah, caffeine actually causes you to be less sleepy and all these things. I wonder whether drinking more will actually be helpful. So that's the question. Then you need to go into design, which is what actually you learn during the research method class, and how to design to something to be testable, which is the prediction that we are talking about. So supposedly this is pre-registered, meaning that once you decided on it, it has to be based on past findings. Like past study tells you that what should be the prediction. And when you register it, you cannot change it, because that is supposed to be educated prediction. Right? And then you collect data and run it and then analyze it. Then with data, you tell whether it support it or not. So you support the hypothesis, it strengthens the theory. If it's not supporting it, then it means that something need to change. Or you need to revisit the theory, meaning that the theory is wrong or there's something wrong in your research design. Okay, so this is a general idea. Like I say, most students actually struggle with this because when they are learning about the theory, sometimes they don't think. They just want to learn, they want to memorize. Instead of actually thinking that, oh, that actually apply to my life and stuff. That's why I tell all my students, when you're learning about a psychological concept or theory or whatever, it's best to learn it by engaging it with an example that happens to you. Try to think of a time where, oh, this actually explains why I actually saw this or why this actually happened to me. That you learn it the best. And also it helps you to actually think about what sort of research that possibly come from it. Okay. So from there, you actually develop. The rest is technical stuff. You can actually learn it when you learn it. There is something that I want to bring your attention to, something that we will talk a bit more about in chapter 3 as well. when you get a when you go through a statistical analysis, let it be correlation, let it be t-test or whatever lah, and you do find that the result do not support hypothesis, like p is more than 0.05. In this case, 0.0 less than 0.05 typically means that it's significant. There is a significant difference, there's a significant effect, which, yeah, I know most people look for because it's easier to publish and stuff lah. But as a researcher, the way that you need to think about it, remember what Karl Popper say, it should not matter. Even if a result say that it's actually P equals to 0.05, which means that it is not statistically significant, it is fine. You did nothing wrong per se. Yeah, there's no such thing that it has to be significant to be important. No. If it's not significant, it tells you that it doesn't matter. It is also a knowledge. For example, go back to the questions that we have just now. Drinking coffee, the more the better or not. So let's say I test people who don't drink coffee, 1 coffee and 2. And let's say I found that doesn't matter. You drink 1, you don't drink, you drink 2, doesn't matter. Yeah, you will still be the same person. You will be alert the same. Your attention is the same, everything. Means that P value is more than 0.05. That is fine. It basically tells people when you're deciding whether you want to drink coffee or not, you like it or not, lor. If you like, you drink more, lor. If you don't like it, don't drink it, lor. Okay? If the result has been significant, it means that even if you don't like it, you better drink it. Because if you drink it, you'll perform better. The don't think is totally different. Okay? But see, having a non-significant result is not the end of the world. It still tells you something. It's just that, yeah, instead of saying that you should do it, it means that it doesn't really matter anymore. All right. Or you can even find this opposite result. Even the more coffee you drink, the worse it is, which has been found to be true. Because they found that the more coffee you drink, instead of becoming more alert and stuff, yes, you'll be less sleepy. That's correct. You'll definitely be less sleepy, but doesn't mean that it will be good for your performance. You'll be jittery, which means that you are quite jumpy. You cannot think logically. You try to rush things and everything. So not necessarily a good idea to have too many coffee as well, which is something that we discover now lah. Now even we discover that the more coffee you drink, the more likely you lose your bone marrow and stuff. Actually, have bone matter and stuff like that, which is a even bigger deal. So yeah, if you don't like it, don't drink it. Even if you like it, don't drink too much. Yeah. Okay, that is the theory data cycle. Next one, something that a lot of us have probably like, why can't I say proof? Like when you're writing your first lab report and you say proof, something proof blah blah blah. This one is actual news. Los Angeles Times. Like last time when they publish it, they actually print it out in a paper and stuff. I find the online one of course. So science proof what you suspected. Hiking is good for your mental health. We don't use that term. The reason why is that it actually brings back to the whole Karl Popper's argument of falsifiability. We do not, we actually avoid inference where we are saying that something is like that, nothing else is correct. I'm totally correct. Because proof means that there's non-deniable, like there's no deniable facts that hiking is going to be good for you. For example, think about this. Let's say that in your life, you have seen that raven or crow is black. Okay. So this raven is black. That raven is black blood. Every raven I've ever seen is black. So same thing in the research. I found that in research, for everyone that I've seen, the more they spend time hiking, the better their health is, mental health is. Okay. So if I see every raven I see is black, does it mean that all ravens are black? So in the same case, if I study 50 people, even 100 people, everyone seems to show me that hiking is good for them. Does it mean that for everyone is the same? It's not likely. As we discussed earlier on, for psychology wise, there is always an exception. Humans are complex. All right. So that's the reason why you don't use the word proof. You can say suggest, you can say likelihood, which is actually accuracy. So it's not even a political correct thing. It's not like, oh, you use that term because it's politically correct. No, you are actually being accurate. Right? We never say it because we don't know. In psychology, there's no such thing as that, we prove it so that everything will stay there like that. It will never change. There is no such thing. Hence why the reason why you don't do it. Okay, so talking about this like minor things, etc. Next, we would talk about last thing that we as a scientist, what do you do? What actually makes you into a scientist? According to Mertens, there are 4 norms that you follow as a scientist. Again, we say this because you do not need to have certain qualification to be a scientist. You can be a student, you can be a secondary school student even, okay? Doesn't mean that you cannot be a scientist, as long as you practice these 4 things. Number 1, universalism. Means that doesn't matter who you are, what sort of research that you do, you actually are subjected to the same criteria. Yeah, where when we are considering every scientific claim, when people say just now, like hiking is good for your health, etc., doesn't matter what area you're looking at, you are going to evaluate them based on the same criteria, which is the reason why practice of science and research methodology is important. Because research methods are supposed to be universal, yeah? Doesn't matter what field you are in, these are the things that you should follow in order to say that, or whatever that you discover in your study is trustworthy, is actually valid, is actually correct. Doesn't really matter who do it, doesn't really matter what did they do last time. Supposedly that's the case, but of course, we will be affected by it. So for example, if you tell me that, oh, Kahneman, which the one that I mentioned earlier on, actually did some new things, like he discovered this and that, I will more likely to trust the person rather than someone who is more dodgy. All right. But again, the reason why this is important is that there's supposed to be a universality of research method, yeah, where it doesn't really matter what is it, you can actually evaluate it using the same standard. There is no such thing as universality of knowledge where you say, oh, the same thing will apply to everyone, yeah, or I can just discover this one thing and then that's it. I don't need to study even more. No such thing. Right? So it's just the method that is method, not knowledge. And that's why we talk about this, right? When it comes to psychology, there's no one simple answer. It's always conditional because humans are complex. The only thing that you can say is standardized is the research method. Hence why you need to research this, because without this, there's no science, yeah? Okay. So saying that even a student can do it, you don't need to have advanced science degree whatever. Okay. Whether you are a student or not, primary secondary when you do a research and you publish something, let's say, you are going to be evaluated using the same criteria, whether it's a good research or not. Doesn't really matter what your qualification is. That is universalism. Next is communality, where we share our knowledge, not only to the people that we work with or in the same field and etc. Yeah, it's actually to the public, everyone. And you should do it through various medium. Like supposedly, most likely one is journal when you publish in a journal, it could be paywall, it could be open access, things like that, or it could be newspaper, where it would definitely spread more, or it could be magazine, where it would actually touch people who are more like have specialized interests. For example, if your study is on golf, you publish in a golf magazine, people only interested in golf would know. Newspaper means that even if I not interested in golf, I would know. Okay, or could be social media, which is the most wide-ranging thing nowadays, where because people just do not actually select things that they watch. Especially if you are going through like TikTok and stuff, you just slide and slide and slide. You just see whatever that is served to you. Okay, so chances are this will reach more people. But of course, saying these things, the more wide-ranging they are, the more popular something become, there is a higher chance of centralization, where something becomes more important than it is or supposed to be original is. For example, the Mozart effect. The Mozart effect was the idea that you should actually let the child in your womb listen to music, where it would actually turn out that they would be smarter, things like that. Yeah, if you it's no longer that popular nowadays, but I think when my child was it's still in the womb, there is still a lot of publication on these things where you can actually buy books that have the CD of the Mozart music and then they'll give you the earphone that you can actually put on the tummy of the mom so that the child can listen to the whole thing. The original study found that there's such an effect, yeah, but the original author actually say that the effect is really small. And considering that after you control for things like the social economic status of the mom and dad, or the education level, everything, there's basically no effect. All right. But despite that, again, everyone is still talking about it during that time, etc. Like I say, nowadays is less popular. More and more people go online and look for these things, actually found out that it's actually not really that effective because there are more and more study in. so it did not become popular. Okay, but last time it was actually really, really popular. Yeah, so the whole Mozart effect thing, that is the centralization. So this one show you the whole idea where you might actually probably actually discover something. This one, by the way, is wrong. This means that it's not significant. This is just supposed to be a joke. Okay. But originally, like A is related to B, but there's a lot of condition given C, assuming D and under E condition. But then when you actually get news, the news was get by the university, where there will be a PR office or whatever it is. There is definitely one where or whatever discovery that you have to put it to newspaper, this and that, so that the university become more famous. It will become something much more definitive. So all the condition thingy is gone. It just say under certain condition. The focus is that there's a link between A and B, but they still say potential. Yeah. Okay. Then when it comes to the news, they say A cos B. No more condition, no more likelihood. It just say A cos B, say scientists. Did not even say who would actually found it. And then for some reason in the internet will become scientists out to kill us again. Then when it gets to the local news, they will say the same, hey, killer among us and stuff. Yeah. When they reach your grandma and stuff, will actually just read it from the news or social media, it will become something totally different. Same thing actually happened to the whole Mozart thing. And the other concept that has been popularized a lot is the whole idea of alpha male and beta male, which is like, oh, you're supposed to follow this because it actually something that they observe in the wolf pack. Again, found to be inaccurate. Even wolf don't do that. That's the thing. The actual original author or the researcher actually come out and say that, oh, I actually make a mistake. There is no such thing. Even within the wolf community, there is no such thing. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to the people who actually think that it's actually a real thing. They still continue doing it. Yeah. So that's the whole idea of publication. Still saying that you should still publish it. Again, if not, there's no reason, no purpose or meaning. Yeah. It should again be targeting to help people know more so that they can actually make their life better. Next one is disinterestedness. This one is an interesting term, but it means that when you are doing a research, you are not swayed by anything else, like your own conviction, your idealism, your politics, etc. Your focus should be on striving to discover the truth, just the truth and nothing else. Okay. Even if it's something that is important to you, you should not be personally invested in the whole idea of conflict of interest. Okay. You do not think about like, I want to get the significant result because this would help me to pass a paper or something. That itself is problematic. Let alone the fact that, oh, if I get a significant result, I will become rich from it. But as a scientist, you should not be. Hence why it's the whole idea of disinterestedness. There's no conflict of interest, basically. Right? So don't consider anything else, just focus on the data. Like Deming said, in God we trust, all others must bring data. Doesn't really matter what you're talking about, just bring me the data. This is something that I recommend you to hold on to, like if you do become a scientist or a psychologist in general. Okay, whatever the people tells you, always think about it, always question it, which is organized skepticism, and always ask them to bring the data. Okay, so organized skepticism means that you question everything. Don't simply take things as they are. Doesn't matter how much you trust the person or the source. Doesn't matter how much you agree with them. Don't ever just simply take things as they are. Actually go and evaluate it. Doesn't matter even if it's your own theory, it's something that everyone seems to be accepting, the whole idea of common knowledge, or even like ancient wisdom, like our parents, their grandparents are always been doing this. Doesn't matter. Question them. Never accept anything just simply on the face value. Nothing is considered as secret. Always ask for evidence. Always look for what it is. Because that is the purpose of actually running scientific research. You want evidence. If not, then one person can say A, the other person can say B. Remember when we actually talk about the folk wisdom or the common sense. It's supposed to be same common sense, what? Yeah, everyone have different common sense now. So which one is actually common there? Then only when you look for evidence and test for it, then you can tell. Yeah. So question everything. Hopefully, if possible, learn something from it. Then answer nothing. Answer nothing in this case is that never give a definite answer. Never say that I'm confident that this is it. Like I say, even just now, MBTI is bull. It's only a waste of money. All right. But I still say that if you can prove me wrong, prove me wrong. I'm totally okay with it. We are talking about that because we are like throughout the whole learning thing lah. But I'm open to find out that I'm wrong. All right. So anything that you feel like I did wrong, uncomfortable with and stuff, let me know. It'll be an interesting discussion point. Right? Okay. Any other questions? Or anything interesting that you want to ask? So the class here will be finished on good time. Usually in uni, we will finish like 10 minutes earlier, lah, so the student can actually go to other classes and stuff, but this is basically it. All right. So we can actually end the class now if you need to go. But if you have any questions or anything that you wish to discuss where you thought that you are supposed to discuss it in the class here, but I did not get discussed, let me know. We can discuss it now. Don't worry about the passing 12 lah. Okay, we can still have a few minutes to discuss it. But if not, thank you for coming to the class. Hope that it's not a waste of your time. Yeah. You will leave. Welcome. I'm assuming that you are not here anymore, and I will leave the chat now. Okay.